Hi, Management 3500 students. This is Steve Wagner, and this is the part 2 video on managing stress and emotions. We're going to talk about emotions in this video. So, in discussing stress, we identified one outcome of stress, and that is negative emotions. And in the case of eustress, or that perfect level of stress that is actually motivating, there are positive emotions associated with some stress. So emotions are something that we study in organizational behavior. But let's back up, because when we talk about emotions, we should first talk about affect. And affect is a generic term that covers a broad range of feelings that people experience. And this includes both moods and emotions. Now, how is mood different than emotions? Well, emotions are intense feelings that are directed at something in particular, some person or something, versus moods. Moods are feelings that tend to be a bit less intense and tend not to be directed towards anything in particular. Okay, moods kind of lack a particular stimulus. You may have heard the expression, he woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Okay, it's kind of, what does that mean? Why would anybody feel bad because they woke up on the wrong side of the bed? It's kind of expressing this idea that there's no real reason for this person to be moody, but that's how they're feeling. Okay, so when we look at emotions, we see that there are basically six emotions that emerge in different studies. They include anger, fear, sadness, happiness, disgust, and surprise. And if we were in class together, I would be asking you to identify which of these different emoticons matched each of those different emotions that are listed there. And we can see that uh, the feelings on the inside are expressed through expressions that are on the outside. And what's very interesting is that these expressions tend to be fairly universal across cultures. So you don't need to understand the language when someone is angry with you. Now, if we could arrange these in terms of how positive and negative they are, and we can see along the bottom that the most positive of these is a happiness, next surprise, then fear, sadness, anger, and disgust. So how about moods? What makes up our moods? Well, moods have very much the same type of structure, but here I have presented a more detailed model that actually would fit both emotions and moods, but it does, again, express, there is a range from more positive to more negative. And there is also a difference in terms of how activated. So we talk about high negative affect being different than high positive affect. High negative affect is consisting of being nervous and tense and upset, versus high positive affect is being excited and elated and happy. And we can contrast that with low positive affect and low negative affect. And so low positive affect is being bored or depressed or sad, versus low negative affect is being relaxed or calm or content. Psychologists have studied the experience of moods and emotions. They have developed some more detailed models where they look at emotions both as negative emotions and positive emotions, and have a more elaborate set of emotions that we observe. So now let's turn to managing emotions at work. In many jobs, there's an implied agreement that the types of emotions that should be expressed should be favorable for the organization. You've probably heard of the term service with a smile. For example, waitresses are supposed to be friendly and cheerful, whether or not they're currently feeling that emotion. When employees don't feel the emotion that they're required to express, they might experience what's called emotional dissonance. And this can lead to frustration and potentially burnout. Okay? So, is telling people that they should serve with a smile, is that a bad idea? Are we imposing unnecessary stress on our employees for the sake of our customers and our business? Well, perhaps, but I think there are ways. I think we can still ask people to project negative emotions, but we have to understand that when we do that, that there is stress, and we should provide them with opportunities to recover. If not, then that emotional dissonance will become exhausting. Okay, so especially in these service industries where we're asking people to project a a type of emotion that they might not actually feel, it's important that they have breaks, that they have the social opportunities with fellow workers to blow off some steam, to express their actual emotions. And we have to understand that just because behind closed doors in a break room they're expressing negative emotions about perhaps our customers, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, and that perhaps sometimes our customers are frustrated and our employees are legitimately feeling that way. And yeah, we don't want them to reflect that frustration back, but we have to understand that by conveying something that we don't actually feel, there is this dissonance that is stressful. So we need to give people time to recover and space to recover, and not think of that as a bad thing. So when we think about emotional labor, there are two types. There's the felt emotion and the displayed emotion. Okay, an employee's actual emotions are their felt emotions, and this is in contrast to the emotions that are required or deemed appropriate, which are called displayed emotions. There are two levels of displayed emotions that can be expressed. They are both appropriately called acting. Surface acting is when we are displaying appropriately, but not feeling the emotions internally. And that's that condition we've been talking about where there may be emotional dissonance. Okay, what you display is not what you feel on the inside. Now, in acting, there is an approach called method acting. Certain actors like James Dean and Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro are kind of famous method actors in that they really get into their characters and they try and find experiences that they can remember, that they can bring to mind, and help them to actually feel the emotions that they're trying to express. This is this deep acting. Okay, and I think that this is also sometimes very appropriate. Okay, if, for instance, you need to appear confident as you are talking to your employees, okay, it would be a good idea if you tried to authentically feel confident. What could you do to do that? Well, you could employ this deep acting technique. You could dig into those experiences where you felt very confident. You could stand with your back straight in that superhero pose and bring those feelings to mind so that when you appear to your employees, display that confidence, it's authentic and it's something that you're actually feeling. Now, another theory in your book that addresses managing emotions at work is the affective events theory. So this theory talks about how our emotional reactions can affect job satisfaction and performance. What the theory says is that daily events, daily hassles, daily uplifts, lead to us experiencing emotions, both positive and negative. And those emotions lead to job satisfaction and performance, with positive emotions leading to higher job satisfaction, higher performance, negative emotions leading to lower job satisfaction, lower performance. Okay. One thing I think that's very interesting about this theory is that it says that this experience of events and the emotional reactions that we have to these events may be influenced by our personality or our mood. So if a person is highly neurotic, someone who is dispositionally nervous and has a negative outlook on life, they're more likely to experience daily hassles as more negative and daily uplifts as perhaps less positive. And we can see the same thing as mood. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that we bring with us uh, through our personality. It could be that we wake up and we're in a negative mood. And again, it can have this, what we call moderating effect on our work events. Okay, so how do we manage work events? As managers, we can't be there to micromanage every little daily hassle and daily uplift. No, but what we can do is design our jobs so that they promote more uplifts and they diminish the number of hassles that people experience. So the characteristics of jobs that we learned about through the Hackman and Oldham model. Okay, the amount of job demand that might lead to stress, and the requirements for emotional labor that we talked about also. So what are the implications of affective events theory? Well, there are a number of them. When employees has an emotional episode, it's actually the result of a series of emotional experiences that are triggered from a single event. Your job satisfaction is impacted by your current and past emotions. As your emotions fluctuate over time, it will create variations in job performance, and behaviors that are driven by emotions are typically brief and variable. Both positive and negative emotions can distract workers and reduce job performance. In summary, emotions do provide a very valuable information to predict factors about behavior. And in addition, it's important that we do not ignore minor events as they can accumulate over time. Yet another theory discussed in your textbook was emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a growing area of study and is becoming increasingly important to understanding individual behavior at work. Emotional intelligence is pulling in one's understanding of emotions and how these emotions impact behavior. An individual who is emotionally intelligent will have a strong sense of self-awareness, recognizing their emotions when experienced. They are also able to detect emotions in others. By understanding their own emotions and those of others, they can manage emotional cues and information in order to make better decisions. So emotional intelligence plays an important role in job performance. However, to be quite frank, the jury is still out on whether emotional intelligence really plays a role in effectiveness in organizations. Now, why is the jury still out? Well, here's some of the controversy. Okay, the case against EI is that EI is too vague and that it can't be measured and that its validity is suspect. Of course, though, you still hear a lot of people talking about emotional intelligence. It's an intuitive appeal.